Kamakrazee!
In the wild with Dap.
In our wild or in, like, the outdoors wild?
If we ever do a Monster Hunter or Wild Hearts, that should be the... And here we see the great Jaguars. In his natural habitat, devouring everything in sight, because it is a fat fuck.
Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to a new episode of... I think we're definitely going with Inactive Development. It's catchy. It sticks.
It's the id.
It's the id. The DAP id. I've got two members of the DAP crew. I've got Glenn, or Margrath, I guess, with me this time. And it's only the second episode, and we're already going to try something a little bit different. We're going to talk about a game that doesn't need to be changed much, but it's a game that I very much want made. It's a little-known gem called Mad Max.
Some of you may have heard of the film.
I mean, they're popular.
It's a niche film!
Well, a little bit. I mean, it kind of kickstarted the whole post-apocalyptic genre way back in 1979. Written by George Miller, and I think the first one was written with someone else, but he's the only one who sort of continued through all of them. He's the only name that sticks with me. But he even come back for the more recent one and is, I think, writing the new ones that are coming out.
I have ADHD. Paying attention to credits is not my...
Yeah, it's not your strong suit. No,
people tell me their names in real life and it just...
I mean, that's fair. But, yeah, it's a popular series. Everybody has at least heard of the movies. There's 4 of them currently.
The most recent is Fury Road, yeah?
That's the most recent one, yes. Apparently, just last year, they finished recording the prequel to Fury Road, Furiosa. And that's in development, so I'm hoping to see a trailer for that soon. That would be awesome.
That would be...
And then they're planning another sequel, I believe.
Yeah,
so they're doing back to back.
Wasn't it Fury Road was the only one not filmed in Australia?
Yeah, no, I can't remember.
I think
parts of it were,
but most of it was in like Namibia or something.
I think so. Yeah, but now apparently with Furiosa, well, according to the wiki page, anyway, they've gone back to recording in Australia. So I'm looking forward to that.
Bringing Mad Max back home.
And yeah, I just want to know more about it. So, but yeah, it started 1979, way back in the first one, and like this movie was, well, it was one of the first big Aussie films, especially definitely an Aussie action film. Started Aussie filmmaking. Little known actor Mel Gibson was the lead, and yeah, they kind of set it up for this post-apocalyptic try to survive in the wasteland after all this sort of stuff. Like the wasteland and more of that sort of destruction that became more explained in the next few films, but this one just sort of kept the heart of the story about, you know, being a survivor and the society breakdown.
Back on the point you made before about, George Miller was kept all the way through, you can really see that, because the very first one isn't that apocalyptic. I mean, I think there are mentions and murmurs of, oh yeah, there's stuff going on in the world and it's not looking good.
Yeah, and they sort of make it sound like they're the last police bastion sort of thing.
Which does make sense with Australia being an isolated place. If, you know, the big powers... I don't know why I did that. Pointing at Atlas. If the big powers decide to start scrapping with each other and do themselves some damage, we're little and isolated down the bottom.
Yeah, Australia's a very good setting for that.
For the whole, you know, we haven't got nuclear wastelands, we just got wasteland.
But, like, a lot of films more recently over the years since then have done it quite well with, like, Walking Dead and the zombie apocalypse, and The Last of Us, which has just come out with a different kind of zombie apocalypse, and other sort of, like, survivor films have become more sort of prevalent and have done their own version of the story. It was one of the first ones that at least I remember, and the film's older than me, but, you know, with that sort of setting. And it's, yeah, before that it was all, like, survival horror was always in space or some unknown territory and things, so that was always
way in the far-flung future.
But yeah,
I say far from. They're always set in the year 2000.
They kind of perfected that kind of vibe that it has throughout the films, and then with the more recent one, the focus became more again on the cars, and I believe the words George Miller used were the fetishistic. I can't even say that, like, the
fetish element.
Obsessing over things like cars and V8s and all that sort of stuff. They really brought it back to that.
Because, there was, in the very first movie, it was, Last of the V8 Interceptors.
A lot of motorbikes, which they sort of stopped appearing in a lot of the films.
And the second one, which I think is just called Mad Max 2.
That's Road Warrior.
Road Warrior, it's not actually called 2, it's called Mad Max Road Warrior.
Yeah, they changed the name for releasing in a country somewhere, it just stuck. I can't remember the whole story behind that.
So you've got Mad Max 1, which is, once again, Last Police Bastion. It's before, which is a detail I love that appears in both all the movies and the game, is the leg brace that Max has.
Yep. That kind of trauma, like a visual representation of the damage and trauma he took, persisting with him throughout the movies. And it is even in one with Tom Hardy, Fury Road. He does carry that on.
Which is great, and if they just lose it somewhere along the lines, that is no longer a Mad Max movie.
Yeah, it's kind of iconic. And that and the leather jacket.
That and the leather jacket.
It's
which I'm now remembering Fury Road, one of the first things he gets back is his jacket.
That's right.
You've just called her! What are you going to ask for a Morton joke? My jacket!
He doesn't say many words in that film, which suits the character. He doesn't speak to people more often, but one of the few things he says is, "That's my jacket," as he takes it back. And "That's my car," which, again, the whole of sort of being obsessed.
And that's a trap.
Yes, yeah.
No, that's bait.
That's bait, yeah.
I'll take care of it.
Great movies. But,
they're not one-liners, but... No, they are.
They kind of are, yeah.
He just says 7 different one-liners, and that's it.
More or less, yeah. Even the other one where he's like, "What do we do if you get stuck?" He's like, "You keep going." It's like, that's could be considered a one-liner, technically. You just didn't murder someone first. That's a weird thing. As a trope, do you need to murder someone before you say a one-liner, or can you just say it for any situation? It's
new D&D character idea.
You're bleeding. That's not his blood.
The game itself, so this is an interesting one because this is a game, if I were to pitch this, I wouldn't want them to change it too much. The game was near perfect in my opinion. Avalanche Studios did an amazing job, and I would love to see them hired again, or even to some of the people that worked on it, to work on a new one. But, they've done some other good games as well, like the Just Cause series is well known, and Rage, which is pretty much Mad Max, but first person. But yeah, Mad Max is my favourite, and it's a game that I go back to and I play it every few years. I've finished it. I think we were just messing around with it a few months back because we were bored, and that was the 4th time I'd started it. And I've finished it at least twice since then. It's just one of those games I just enjoy, and I can sink many hours into it. But it needs a sequel, and I think it needs to be done bigger and better. And the problem with the first one was, and they did steer away from it, it was sort of foreshadowed by this movie tie-in game, which we know has its own
problems. And
it's more like
expectations upon it.
Yeah, expectations, and they have a reputation of being bad. Like, movie tie-ins are usually bad. So they decided to take the basic setting, but tell an original story, which was a stroke of genius, and that's why this game works so well, I think. There was enough hints at,
the movie with...
the movie...
did they even mention... Yeah, they mentioned a Molten Joe?
They mentioned a Molten Joe.
And they mentioned Bullet Farm in Gastown. I know they do that.
They mentioned those, which is all a established part of the world, but this is its own little section, and it's supposed to be one of his sons, I believe, is the main villain in that game.
I want to say Scrotus Erectus. It's Lord Scrotus.
Yeah.
But I usually make fun of it saying it's Lord Scrotus Erectus. Actually, is it Erectus?
No, Rictus Erectus.
Rictus Erectus.
He's the one in the movie, though.
Yes.
So Lord Scrotus, I can't remember his name, but
Scabrous Scrotus.
Scabrous, that's it. He's the main villain, and they've kept it sort of separate but tied in enough. I think that was great. But yeah, like
scabby balls.
everything about this game worked perfectly. It's got great combat. It's got customizable cars. It's got that sort of vibe that just Mad Max is known for. Like even when you upgrade, you go find the mysterious wanderer, and he unlocks your potential, sort of thing.
Gaffer.
It's
very shamanistic, which in some parts of the movies, where he is going a little bit and saying you do have a little bit. First scene of Road Warrior, since we watched it recently, I'll use that. It's got all the pictures coming past of he used to have a family, this, that, and
all the flashbacks, and
Gaffer mentioned some of that, and
like speaking of that, we decided when we were watching the film, what needs to happen is the Gyro Captain has to come back.
Yes, he was great.
A great character, and would honestly make a good sidekick for Max, and should return. I know, like at the end of that movie, they sort of wrote him off as becoming the new leader, but he was an interesting character, and the way they sort of worked together would have worked really well for the game. But
because they really did come together in the end.
They did, which is rewatching it. You're like, he'd sort of trust him very fast, but then again, you're in the wasteland. You got no one else to trust. But,
you either trust someone or you kill them,
and that's dangerous. But it's the core mechanic of the game. It's a pretty simple story, really. It's you're passing through, your car gets wrecked, you try to build a new one. You team up with Chum. He sort of has this whole vision of building the
Magnum Opus!
and building the perfect car. You're the Road Warrior, so you drive it for him. And it's really good.
The
like, it's
Saint?
Still, it calls you the Saint.
Yeah, the blessed Saint with the black on black. There's other words he throws down.
He's got the most Aussie slang,
I'm sure,
out of any character, and it's just worked so well. And the fact that he's the mechanic that travels with you, and then of course the story becomes about Max. Does he trust people? Does he work with people? Does he just drive off into the wilderness at the end? And it kind of does. And without spoiling too much of it, it's a dark story. It's the same sort of thing, he's just trying to survive and all this bad shit happens. And
I mean, we mentioned his trauma so many times in the start.
Yeah, and the ending, it's not a happy ending. Let's just put it that way. And I think it works really well.
In fact, back on the trauma, you find collectibles in the game, which are, just random pictures of other people's lives. I think one of the ones I saw you do...
history relics, yeah.
He finds, a picture of somebody with a dog, and there's, on the back of the photo, because it was before the collapse, there was this is Susie and our new puppy, it's cute enough to eat. And he makes the comment of, we didn't eat dogs back then. There was no need. It
really set up a great locale and basic story for this just great gameplay. And, just the fact that you start off on a lake bed, it's been dried up, which is awesome. You cruise around, collect things.
Lake bed.
Ocean bed. Yeah, sorry. You're correct.
It ain't a lake!
Yeah.
You don't get oil tankers in lakes.
Then it's just a vehicle for you cruising around, finding scrap, upgrading your car.
Upgrading your safe houses, basically.
Yep.
By finding the separate parts, where you need to, for just example, the water collection, you need to find so many water collection parts.
Which all helps you. Every time you upgrade the base, you get things like, when you return to the base, you automatically get full water, which is your way that you heal. You drink from the water, you can top that up out there, but getting a free refill is just a bonus. You can get your ammo refilled, you get more fuel refilled, things like that, which I love that as a concept, and they spread it out over 4 or 5 bases in each territory, and it's a decent sized game.
So if you're in that territory and you've upgraded it, you get that bit.
There's plenty of the WarBoys and different the scavengers, which I can't remember what to call them.
Vultures,
spiky bits.
The vultures.
Vultures, yep.
The vultures.
Which so there's plenty of people to beat up. The combat style is very Arkham Asylum, which I enjoyed about it, but it's more violent, way more violent. He goes into a fury mode and actually really breaks legs and throws people around. You can straight up shiv people and shoot them, and
it's the wasteland.
But it's one of those. The mechanics work really well because it's really flowy, and he's supposed to be aggressive, but a survivor. It all works quite well. So, good story, great mechanics. Even the driving gameplay was good. Like, driving around just feels fun. It's nice and smooth. Most
Depending
of
on your car.
the time. Most of the time. Sometimes you end up flipping off of rocks or, like, bouncing off people and flipping over. But that adds to the fun.
Or you happen to be driving just about a literal barge. I need to turn!
Yeah. But then, like, with the upgrades as well, you could actually get suspension and tyres and get better grip and things at the cost of speed. And yeah, customizing car was half the fun. You build it for speed, you build it for weapons and defense, depending what you're going to go do. And yeah, I enjoy it. Like, I play it all the time. Which brings me to the point of what would we do with the sequel, and why do we feel this needs to be made?
Kick it in the guts, Barry.
Well, then we should go multiplayer?
100% multiplayer. I normally don't say that about games. Like, don't ruin it with multiplayer, but I think this one could work incredibly well.
Or at the very least with co-op.
If it was purely co-op.
So,
Like,
yeah, none of that.
a versus should be like a little battle mode or something, but purely co-op, I think, would be a brilliant idea for it.
So, yeah, have the versus in a similar fashion to in the current, well, I say current, the game where, you know, you go to the races and then you can actually verse people, but have that in this multiplayer.
The races. I think you can race against your friends list as well.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. Have a multiplayer, just a race mode maybe. It's just a way to maybe earn some extra scrap or something. But yeah, the main story should be co-op. But that doesn't work with Max. So
It doesn't.
our pitch is Avalanche Studios or whoever has the rights to Mad Max. The pitch is very similar gameplay to this one, with a few upgrades. You play as WarBoys.
Or equivalent of.
My theory was to keep the story still simple, but have that absolute vibe for it. You get sent off by the Immortan Joe or whoever. Out into I mean, if you want to see the original characters, you can totally do that. Cruise off into the wilderness, you know, to go recruit someone or gather scrap or whatever. And that's when you encounter Max. He should absolutely, in the black on black,
Wreck our shit.
wreck your shit. That should be the start of the game. Opposite of the movie, where he gets wrecked at the start and has to recover. You guys get wrecked. And get left for dead. Then you could have your whole, basically building up from scratch. You find out your leader does not care about you, so you decide to make your own little group. Or you should even, what if you could pick which faction you start with?
Yeah, I think we were discussing that at some point.
Because there's Immortan Joe,
Bullet Farm. Immortan Joe is the milk farm.
well,
Gastown.
Gastown, or even I suppose you could even go Vultures.
Throw in some curveballs like Vultures.
So have 3 or 4 factions you could choose from, which would add a bit of replayability.
Throw in the Lord Humongous with his war dogs.
Or even have just normal survivors, other characters. Just be like, no, I'm going to be more like Max and be a good guy. But I think the more basic villain type base you pick, I think would be more interesting.
Or maybe have it that you can pick the survivors, but, you know, have that become the hard mode, because you can't just walk up and be like, I'm just going to murder everything.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Whereas
Make it more difficult, but maybe a more rewarding story. Although, in true Mad Max faction,
everybody dies in the end.
everyone dies in the end. You could do perks for each base. So maybe if obviously Bullet Farm, you get access to more ammo. Maybe a new class opens up. You can only be like a gunner or something if you work for that group. Or you could be, Gastown. You get more access to gas. You don't have to worry about running out of fuel as often.
Get access to bigger cars because you can fuel them.
Maybe start with, or even with your Immortan Joe, maybe start with bigger cars because his WarBoys have access to more materials because he's sort of in charge. That could then open up the whole thing of you build up your base like you do in the other one, but maybe you get one big base. You have to build it up, build supplies, recruit people, fend off the other factions. Factions would be the best word for them, I guess. Allegiances. Do missions that way.
Because even in the movie Fury Road, they did seem to have a bit of animosity. Like, Immortan Joe calls them together, they go together because Immortan Joe and their leaders are all buddy-buddy, but...
Yeah, that's true, and they keep sort of questions like, nah, this is costing us fuel and costing us men, and, you know, what's the cost of this, so we're going to get it back.
All over some family dispute.
Some squabble. So he says the word squabble. Squabble, I love the way he says that. Squabble. But, yeah, I'd love to see... It should affect how you look as well. Because we were talking about the idea of you make a new character, and because it's co-op, maybe 2, 3, or 4 players, I reckon. 2 to 4 should be the maximum. If it's 2 players, you have 1 car between you. So if it's 4 players, you have 2 cars. Coordinate a little bit. But you should be able to choose your class as well.
Like you mentioned, have a gunner class if you join the bullet farm.
So have a gunner class, have a driver class, melee class, maybe more melee.
A brawler.
And you definitely need...
A Blackfinger?
A Blackfinger.
A Blackfinger.
The mechanic repairman, because we were talking about when we were recording, like how cool it would be one person's the driver and you're driving around fighting other vehicles, and as your car takes damage, someone literally has to have almost like a mini game, climb out to the front of the car and press the right buttons and maintain their balance to repair the engine while you're driving. It'd be a really cool mechanic.
You could even throw in, because there's a scene in Fury Road where they put knots into the engine. There could even be a bit like you could do a similar minigame to refill your knots faster.
That would be really cool. Yeah, the gunner might get access to slightly better weapons, might have that sort of slow down time ability, be able to aim more accurately. The driver should be able to have some benefit to being better at driving.
Like, whenever he gets into a car, whenever the driver is driving the car, it just automatically has a boost to all its stats.
That'd be pretty cool. Or maybe if you only have a Blackfinger and a driver in your team, can you customize your car more or something? There's a lot you can play around with to get a lot of
there'd probably be some things that, you know, the only way to get access to this particular upgrade is to have a Blackfinger, like a sort of auto repair or something, or to make the minigame easier, like he's got a harness that he throws on. Or is wearing that, you know, as he goes over the top of the car, he just like, clips it in, something like that.
That's a good idea, actually. And like they had in the other game, you could earn upgrades, which was better tools to work faster, better, like a harness, you could unlock things like this.
So you have the basic upgrades you can get, but then if you want, you know, those upgrades or those, I don't know why I'm pointing.
Or maybe
you need to be specific class. So if you want to unlock the shotgun,
the other option is instead of classes, you have skill trees. So
That's
you can all start at the base level, and you can all choose to put skills in whatever tree you want. Then you could cross class if you want. If there's only 2 people, you can have your driver / gunner or something, and have your mechanic / brawler or something. So
I'm going with a wrench. Which
means
means
options with that.
You could then get feats that are dependent on how you cross-classing in your tree. Like
skills only available if you're particularly combination.
If you're a mechanic brawler, you have access to actually going people with a wrench. Like you've always got a melee weapon.
Yeah, always start with a melee weapon. That's a pretty handy thing to have.
Clunk!
But you wouldn't need to change much of the gameplay.
It's
driving
already
would be the
pretty
same. Customizing the vehicle would be the same. Although I do like the idea, instead of being able to do it anywhere, you have to go to a safe place or to your main base before you can apply those upgrades to the car.
Yeah, because
really plan your mission.
When we were recording, you were like part way through.
Yeah,
and you're like,
well, in the middle of nowhere.
Well, they've driven off for the moment. I'm gonna go chase them down. But before I do, upgrade.
Put some more armor on the car. Yeah.
Total realism. We just carry them in the back.
Quick travel should only be available to certain points. Like in the Mad Max game, you could go up in the balloons to like scout the area, and that's how you could unlock areas and things. They became quick travels. To do something similar.
I was just thinking back on the perk system, the driver should have access to more quick travel points.
Yeah, like just knowing the roads better and stuff. That's a good idea. But yeah, gameplay wouldn't really need to be changed too much. More options and customizability of character, I think, is the main thing. And it's a big thing in a lot of games these days. Customize your appearance, choose your skills, make it work for you. Then load up on your customized car. You both take turns putting bits on and just cruise around, taking out bases and upgrading and stuff. Sounds like a good time.
Would you still have a character like Gaffer in there?
That's a good question.
Like, is that how you do your level ups?
Yeah.
Would you go to a gaffer or a gaffer equivalent?
They do have the what do they call them? The human mechanics, the bionic, no, organic mechanic, I think they call
I
them.
think so, yeah.
A doctor, basically. That would be a good one. Maybe it could be one of the first things you do when you start, building your own base.
Is you liberate a...
You liberate,
you find one under attack or something.
And he basically allows you to do upgrades and perks and stuff. It'd be kind of cool. Add to the bit of the story element, recruit some people. You could even get someone who's actually, like Chum, who's a better Blackfinger, has been doing it longer or something, and just can give you upgrades for your car when you help him out. Teaches you more perks and things. You could have, a retired driver or...
Really, one of those you can only unlock this skill by having first rescued this NPC.
Really add to the menagerie of cast, like the crazy people that are out there, and have some more unique missions and stuff. And they could also give you unique quests later on to unlock next level upgrades or whatever. Maybe you have to rescue a Blackfinger and do a mission for him to unlock, like they did in the other game, from the V6 to the V8. Get the higher upgrade trees.
Unlock a tank.
I mean,
that's Bullet Farm.
Bullet Farm should get a tank. It's like, is it fast? No. But does it kill everything? Yes.
Just so it's not just the gunner getting a perk from it. Yeah. Everyone else can get a perk. Which you can only access the gunner skill tree from being part of the Bullet Farm. But from being part of the Bullet Farm, every other skill tree has access to other unique things, like you get a tank.
You be able to get a tank, or even just body types for your car that you wouldn't get
big and chunky
else.
four-wheel drives.
Big four-wheel drives. I mean, there was literally
the emasculate
that car that was a tank, but a car body. It's kind of cool.
He's like, I'm going over.
That also asks the question: should we have rigs?
Oh, you mean like
war
rigs?
Yeah. I mean, they've been in 2 out of the 4 films.
Yeah, because in Road Warrior, they've got a
big moment where they threw one together. Then,
on a tanker, and and then everybody rolled a 1.
Oh god! Go back and watch that film, and watch that as what was it? Max,
the gyro captain, and the head of the Resistance. I can't remember his name.
Papagallo, I believe it was.
I think it was Papagallo.
They are the player characters. And watch that chase scene as the most ridiculous number of natural 20s and natural 1s from both sides throughout the whole thing. It's hilarious.
And it makes way too much sense.
It totally does. They've got some charisma checks to get into it and convince them to drive, and then some of the attacks they do are crazy and they get pinned in place, but then, it gets nuts. To the point where Papagallo drives along and just gets speared in the back from, the most ridiculous angle.
You can just imagine the GM was like, okay, he's going to do a spear attack. Oh, fuck, I rolled a crit. Well, let's just roll on the expanded crit table, and you're going to need to make a con save.
Your character might be dead.
Make a con save. So you know how we've been rolling shit all day? Yeah? Well, I just rolled fucked. What? I rolled a nat 1. I'm dead.
It literally ends with, what was it we said, the driver class makes a U-turn and just goes, nah, I'm just going to cruise down this road until I run into the boss. And then he rolls a 20, and then he's like, okay, now roll to maintain control of the vehicle, rolls a 1, crashes immediately.
There's another thing where he first leaves when he gets the black on black again.
That's right, yeah. Takes off in his car.
And Wes rolls for intimidation.
Just takes him out with the
fucking exhaust
pipe. Rolls it immediately.
Oh.
And then he had defeat of, I have bomb on car. Anyway, watch it again. It's so good.
Again. New role-playing game idea on top.
But, going back to the Black on Black, the last of the 8 interceptors, it's iconic. It's a big part of this. So many people recreate them and everyone recognises it immediately. That should be... You should encounter it once at the start, and once you get to a certain level, I reckon it should start showing up on the map at random. And you basically got to run away. So imagine a recurring enemy that he's off just doing whatever and doing his own thing, but at random he'll just pop up and start
your
chasing
ship.
you. Yeah, and like
if you get too
I
close,
love
he
that
will
idea.
go defend himself.
Like, he's a myth and a legend for a reason, and really play into that. And of course, it is a Mad Max game; he should show up in it more than once. But for the most part, having him separate would really allow you to mess around with the story, make it completely original. You don't know who's going to live, who's going to die. You can have different character interactions.
Throwing that Mass Effect choice system.
Yeah, even that would be cool. More replayability. Just choose a different faction. Who do I want to live with this time? Let's try it again. It would be.
I mean, you'd only need to
really
add
good story, I
like the
reckon.
quick time conversation bits in it. You wouldn't even need, Renegade or
Yeah.
Paragon, because I believe that system is actually copyrighted.
Yeah.
Patented.
But like your good and evil
Yeah.
choices is a very easy.
just here's my quick time in the conversation. Live, die, no.
Speaking of random characters that show up, we were talking about the Jara Captain should be in the game.
Yes. I was thinking of touching on
But
that.
it's like a shop. You were saying, like,
Yeah, like a shop NPC.
he should show up at random at your base, looking to refuel or whatever, and you make trades with him.
You know,
Like, you need
get me
upgrades
fuel,
or
get me food, and he'll pick randomly one of those, and
get,
he'll go off, come back, and bring you goodies.
and then
And he'll be the only way to get
even if it's
certain
just
unique
like
items.
cosmetics or certain unique items or something would be really cool.
Oh, I found you this, and it's a new hood ornament for your car or something.
That would be cool.
Or when you go first person as the driver,
You have like different
fucking
things
fuzzy dice.
decorating the car. Oh yes.
Oh god, and whichever
Yeah,
studio
yeah.
picks it up can put in whatever Easter eggs they want as fucking
Yeah.
dice.
That would be cool.
Just have Avalanche pick it up, and what games did we say? It was Rage and God, my brain's just
Just
died.
Cause.
Just Cause. You could have like the one of the iconic guns from Rage just sitting there. The fucking Rage symbol on your fucking fuzzy dice. It's your air freshener.
Oh man, that'd be so good.
Oh
And what game was it? Far Cry did that quite well.
yes.
And you can customize your vehicle because we were playing Far Cry 6. And you get like your little companions as a little bobblehead, or you get some of the characters from their other games as a thing. It'd be kind of cool. It'd be so easy to do. I think there's something you can have with like somebody's cowboy hat and stuff.
I think so.
On the dash. Like,
Although stuff decorating your dash, Mad Max the video game is a third-person game. Would you keep it third-person, or would you allow it to be first-person in certain sections? Like,
yeah, I would say so because the original one does have that option as well. You can go first person when you're driving. It's really difficult. It's difficult to do, but it is. There's something like interesting about driving around in some of these cars in first person view, just to not being able to see that much. It sort of adds to the tension a little bit, which would be kind of cool.
it's weird. I can drive really well first-person real life, because how am I going to drive third-person in real life?
I mean, I've seen videos where they do experiments, but anyway.
But
anyway,
as soon as I get into a video game, I cannot do first-person. I don't know what it is.
it's
the field of view.
yeah, the field of view is never right. VR apparently have made some real big progress in that regard, and I'd be quite
New Mad
interested
Max
to
video game, VR.
Can you imagine walking around the wasteland in VR? The scorching sun, the fucked up places, corpses, and
I already play video games, and because we live in Australia, I see blue cloudless sky, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it is too fucking hot here.
yep. We'll just go go for a 20-minute drive. We could find a place that looks like that anyway.
We'll add some more footage to play. Just find a spot and be like, yeah, we just drove 20 minutes down the road. Bam. That's an abandoned farmhouse. We're already living in the Mad Max
There are
universe.
some places in Australia that look like they're straight out of a Mad Max movie. There's a reason why they filmed some of them here. Most of them here.
Like, once again, Road Warrior. It's the most recent one I saw. I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of an old cattle farm.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Do they call it gas? No, they don't call it gas farm.
No,
They call it something else, but yeah, it's where they're pumping gas.
just
I think
camp or something.
the pump station, I think it is.
Something like that. But yeah. And I love the idea of that as a mission. Like, that's very iconic, and the cruising on the back of the truck. There should be missions every now and then. So instead of like, in the first game you got convoy locations that you can follow around, and then you take out the cars, and then you take the main
ornament.
vehicle to get the hood ornament.
Which
Instead
gives
of that,
different bonuses.
there should be actual trucks. So this should be an actual tough thing. And with multiplayer, you could do it. You have one person, literally the driver, pull up alongside it and have someone jump on and try to fight on board. So you can have actual truck hijacking missions.
Or truck defending missions, and I just had a thought about that. You could have that as part of the multiplayer versus.
Yeah. Maybe have
War rig missions.
war rig missions, defense or offense would be really cool.
You and your team of 4 versus
Instead of,
someone
like,
else and their team of 4.
These small ones, they were set locations, set paths and stuff that should be actually like trek across the map
And
to intercept it and stop
the
it from
attackers have
accelerating.
respawns, and the defenders pretty much just have to reach a certain point and have limited respawns.
And if you win, like, it shouldn't affect the main player, like, main story mission too much. It might just give you a bit of extra scrap or something. Or
Bit of extra
get you
scraps
some
and maybe
cool, unique
some extra cosmetics.
cosmetics and stuff.
Because you don't. That's part of what ruins a lot of co-op multiplayer experiences, when you have to do the verses to get the stuff.
Yeah, so I think it was Mass Effect 3 was one that we played a lot of. Multiplayer on that didn't really affect the single player.
I mean, I think it was one of the only ways to get the secret ending.
It was it added to your percentage of preparedness at the end, and if you were supposed to 100%, you could. There was a chance it would go smoothly without losing anyone. But I'm pretty sure if you do everything else in the game, it's
Goes up to like 90 or something.
yeah, it's still like most of the way. So it's not really necessary, and it unlocks cool things for its own mode, new characters and guns and so on and so forth, but it doesn't affect the main story. And that's all it would really need to be. Just a bit of combat, some races.
Of course, you'd have people
unlock
who
cosmetics.
would play it just for the war rig mode or the race mode, but you've got that for other games where people play it just for the PvP side. Which, if we're looking for a game that encompasses everything, that would help achieve that.
Yeah. Because I know how many companies these days are like, it has to have single player and multiplayer. And it's like, well, that ticks those boxes without
ticks those-
affecting the story.
Whereas a lot of other games, it ticks the box, but it ruins one or the other.
Yeah.
It's a very hard balance to get, and I will acknowledge that it's a hard balance to get. But my god, it feels like some people don't try hard enough to get that balance.
Sometimes it just feels forced in there.
Mm.
Or it just, yeah, like you said, doesn't affect it affects the balance too much. It doesn't help either mode. Which, I'm looking at you, Destiny. Yeah, otherwise, I think it would be a fantastic game. Scavenging for scrap, driving with your buddies, conquering the wasteland. On that note, I guess, guys, Avalanche Studios, or whichever company owns the rights to Mad Max at the moment, this is the game. Please make this game. Greetings, adventurers. Thanks for listening to the first episode of Inactive Development. This has been a passion project of mine that I've been brainstorming and working on for the last few years, and I'm excited to see it coming together. We may not be professionals or work in the video game industry, but we do love our games and to tell a good story, and I do hope that you can agree with some of our ideas. Now, we won't ask for likes or subscribes, but if you did like some of the ideas we have discussed in this episode and would like to help us out, you can do so just by sharing this video, show it to your friends, and discuss it with other gamers. Oh, and maybe, if someone could tag some of the official people and get them to watch it too, who knows? Anyway, I've been Weaver from Digital Adventuring Party, and when we aren't playing video games, we are usually playing D&D, and you can catch us here or on Twitch once a fortnight. Thanks again for listening to this episode, and as for the next one...
Don't say it! Don't you say it!
left.
Come on!
We may have something in mind.